Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 12th of February. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined for the first time this week by Stevie Clifford. How's it going, Stevie?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'd love to say that I'm doing well, but I'm not. Still can't get rid of this cough, Derek, which is blighting me now for about, 2 months or something.
Oof.
So the doctor's talking about this 100-day cough and all that, and I'm sitting there trying to do the maths in my head. I'm only 60 days into this torture. So, yeah.
The Rangers review. It sounds like the external review into Rangers.
Aye, something like that. So, yeah, I'll try and get through this. Apologies, folks, if I'm coughing and spluttering. I'll try not to. Got some water to sip, Derek. Sadly, there's nothing else in it.
Yeah, he'll soldier on like a good old professional, like you are, Stevie. But good that you're back on the show. And yeah, very good morning to you all, or whatever time it is, wherever you're watching. I know that many of you watch from far-flung places. Jim McKerrow just getting us all jealous, saying that he's tuning in from sunny Portugal. So we'll have none of that, Jim. But good to have you tuning in.
I used to quite like Jim and all. Really nice guy, but.
Right, let's crack on. Of course, we're now on Wednesday, 3 days after that debacle at Ibrox on Sunday. There's been nothing from Rangers, despite a huge clamour for a change in direction with regards to the first team manager, Philip Clement, still in charge of the club. Stevie, we've not had you on since Sunday, but it's fair to say that I think you're in the vast majority of what the supporters feel, and that is that a change of manager is required. What's your overall feelings after Sunday and the future ahead, but what remains of the season, I guess?
Well, season's over domestically, that's for sure. In Europe, there's a pipe dream that we can cling on to, but it's not realistic. And look, let's cut to the chase. Sunday was absolutely disgraceful. It was embarrassing. The players, first and foremost, who were on the pitch, let everybody down. Their attitude was substandard, with an arrogance that was completely unwarranted. They felt like they could just turn up and treat it like a training game. And that was the attitude that was displayed. And by far, the worst result I can remember in a very long time, that's for sure. I wasn't quite old enough to remember Hamilton in the late 80s under Graham Souness. But context around that was a freak result. The problem is, Derek, this wasn't a freak result. Rangers are not a good team under this manager. We are a very average team who occasionally play good. We're not a good team who occasionally play poorly or averagely. And that's the truth, I'm afraid. It might not be easy to accept, but that is exactly where we are under this manager. And look, people know that I'm not a fan of him, and I won't try and hide it because I'm not. I don't think he gets the basic things right. I thought again on Sunday, his selection, his tactics, his approach, completely wrong. We stumbled upon something that worked in terms of two forwards up front, and he just, at every opportunity, tries to change that to go back to a Bayrami, Hadji, Tierney, front three minus the 9 that just doesn't work. And it's very frustrating and disappointing. And every time we stumble upon it, it was the same at Fraserburgh and other games like that. And people, I was on here and I said that the results against USG and Dundee United had slightly clouded people's judgment because I felt like we were lucky at Tannadice. They hit the post 2-3 times. Every time that ball came in the box, we were a bit of a riot, especially from long throws. And then at USG, they missed 5 or 6 clear opportunities, and people felt like I was being harsh. But for me, the warning signs have continued to be there throughout performances, even when we've been winning. I spoke about it online on X last week. That I was concerned about our performance levels that were getting missed because we were getting results. And I just felt like going into Sunday, the attitude was completely wrong. And yes, the players are getting away with this quite a bit because the focus is on the manager. But the players are completely culpable for what is another embarrassing, abject failure. And Derek, there's no other words for it. If we listen, see if we accept Sunday and just say it was a freak, just carry on. We're accepting absolute nonsense, and it shouldn't be allowed. This is Rangers, or it's supposed to be. And Sunday should never, ever be acceptable. Not by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah, Johnny called it the worst result in Rangers history yesterday, and I was trying to rack my brains to think of others. Of course, Berwick Rangers is the famous one, but I can't think of any others that come close. You could say progress, I guess, under Pedro, but yeah, I think this domestically, at least, this is the worst result in the club's long history, which tells you everything you need to know. And key point you just mentioned there, Stevie, if it was a one-off, as I touched on before in shows down south, we've seen a one-off on Sunday at home park with Plymouth, then you could stomach it. But it's we've seen this movie too many times before, and that is why there is this serious clamour to get rid of the current manager. Very good morning to Cy Leslie, who gets in touch. He says, Hamilton were a Premier League team. There is no comparison. So that's what he says on that one. Of course, Graham Souness in charge at the time. And
Hamilton were, Cy's right. I've known
Yeah.
Simon for a long time. Good morning, mate.
Yeah.
Hamilton were bottom of the league, amateur side. I don't think they were even full-time, part-time. So there is a relevance there. I don't think they'd scored many goals and things like that either. So there is a bit of a relevance, but Simon's right in terms of they were a Premier League team, but not by much.
Yeah.
So that is I would say that's a margin, a marker, but it's still, this result's way below it, in my opinion, as well. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. Incidentally, folks, if you want to get your questions in today, then please do so. We'll try and get through a good few of them. Now, I said yesterday when I was on with Johnny, I think, or I can't remember when I was on, I said, is there anyone out there that still supports Clement? I would love to hear from you. Now, someone did email me yesterday, Cooper's Left Foot, who often gets in touch on the show. So if you're tuning in, buddy, then a very good morning. I'll quickly run through what he had to say. He says, you're looking for someone who still supports PC and believes he's the right man for the job. Now, the emotion of Sunday has diluted a little and my head is cleared. I am that man, and here is why. In my view, PC is 2 items to sort: how to beat the low block in corners. The second one will inevitably assist the first. He is shown in other areas he is clearly a good manager. However, Rangers cannot afford to get rid, not only for cash flow reasons, but cannot stomach another rebuilding process. The board have made numerous mistakes for many years now. We're paying the price for that. PC has had an enormous amount to deal with and is fighting with at least one hand tied behind his back. He's had to deal with the CEO, chairman, the Hamlin debacle, an injury list that was remarkably bad, the B team and squad progression issue, inheriting a squad that wasn't good enough, as well as finally having to make the best of the restructuring currently in play that has resulted in shaving £10 million off the wage bill in 2 windows, a process that is not finished yet. Did any of us truly believe this was going to be anything other than a transition season, if we're honest with ourselves? Not an easy truth to come to terms with, and few people would have been prepared to state publicly, but a truth nevertheless. We are not a patient support, and that is part of the problem. We have to face a realism that this structuring will take time. This is all happening against the backdrop of our main rivals having been well run for years and bucket loads of cash. So we're now having to work smarter, and let's be frank, take a few chances with recruitment. He then goes on to talk about players and things like that. It's quite a lengthy email. I won't go heading straight. Won't read all of it, but he finishes off with, on a separate note, I also believe he'll reach the final in Bilbao. I've already booked flights and accommodation. As I previously mentioned, every time England reach a major final, Rangers reach a European final the following season. A further but unwanted omen the last time Rangers were put out by the Scottish Cup by lower league opposition. We reached the UEFA Cup. Hope to see you in Bilbao. So certainly a supporting voice for the manager. There are a few of them, Stevie, it's fair to say. Johnny mentioned yesterday that, listen, he can be a talented manager, but just not suited to the Scottish game and to Rangers. And I think that is possibly true. I can see Philippe Clement, when he does leave Rangers, going to perhaps a club back in Belgium, perhaps Belgium national team at some point in the future, and doing relatively well. But at this moment in time, he's had numerous chances to fix the problem, which is beating low blocks in Scotland, and he's just been unable to come up with the answers.
Yeah, that was quite the list of excuses for him there. That's all they are, Derek, excuses. He's had a lot to deal with. He's also had £20 million to spend. He talks every single time something happens. He comes out with a list of excuses in that press conference. He sits and he talks about budgets. What budgets did Queen Park have at the weekend?
Yeah.
He goes on about it all the time. He says, we can't match Man United, Tottenham, Celtic's budget. And he whines on about that all the time. And then he says, we don't have the budget on Sunday, or we've got budget restrictions. He bought £15 million worth of players off the bench on Sunday. It's not me sitting up in the gantry telling him to put on a left back for one of our most attacking players in Yanis Hadji.
Yep.
It's not me constantly telling him not to play attacking players and to play boring horseshoe football, which, by the way, it is. And everybody went on about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and they had a point. But Van Bronckhorst's style at least had something. It didn't work in Scotland. But all we're doing now is repeating it. And it's a horseshoe back and forward, up and down the sides, hoping that somebody like Czerny or Hadji or anything will try and come up with a moment of brilliance. And the Hadji substitution on Sunday, by the way, was quite pathetic, really. Hadji played a pass out the park. Clement had a wee tantrum, started pointing to his bench and whipped him off. And it was completely ridiculous.
Not the first time.
No, when you're looking for a goal, Derek, and, you know, regardless of what you think of Yanis Hadji or whatever, you want to keep Yanis Hadji on that pitch. Because Ridvan Yilmaz, and let's face it, Jeffrey's final ball isn't that great either. There was nothing coming down that whole side. He negated everything. And it was just symptomatic of what was poor from him. And I don't think he really believes in the youth either. I think he's, again, point proven. And, you know, there was an ideal opportunity to bring on some kids and try and get Finlay Curtis on the park, who is a goal threat, and he chose to put on a left back. So, like, get the violin out for him and tell me that he's had all these injuries and he's had this and that and everything else. It doesn't stop what we're seeing in the park during 90 minutes, which is constant mistakes, which is a team that isn't set up. They're not well drilled. They don't have a pattern of play that works in Scotland. They don't have a style of play which suits our game. This isn't a guy that's been here a couple of weeks or a couple of months. He's now been here the best part of 16 months, 15, 16 months, and he doesn't know what's right in front of his nose. So, no, I'm out of excuses for him. And there is a list, and you could make contextual points and everything else. But the way this team constantly is set up by him, how many times do we have to make changes at half-time and early on in games because he doesn't get it right? How many times do we sit here and say we weren't very good in the first half? Or how many times do we sit here and say we play for well for 20 minutes? This is all coaching issues, which he has not at any point managed to get on the end of and bottom out. So, yeah, look, he's had injuries. He's not had a CEO. He's not had a chairman. You know, he's only had this amount to spend. He's had injuries, this, that, and everything else. He's still the man on the training pitch. He's still the man with the tactics. He's still the man picking the team. He's still the man trying to get this team on the pitch with a system, and none of it's working. So, cry me a river for Philip Clement. I'm not interested. I really am. I'm past the point. Anybody that sits and accepts Sunday as being something that just happens or as a freak result is kidding herself on. This is Rangers. It should never, ever be acceptable. Philip Clement should have been gone on Sunday night. And it's an absolute sad indictment that we're sitting here on Wednesday morning and this club haven't even batted an eyelid at that result. They haven't spoke to us. They haven't acknowledged it. And they're just hoping it goes away, and it won't. And it shouldn't.
Interesting, the CEO thing. I mean, it's something that we talked at length at the time about when the Rangers are going to get a CEO. He spoke about it, Clement as well. You guys know I covered Bolton as well. They've not had a CEO. Their CEO left for MK Dons a good few months ago now, but it's not even been an issue, even if the team is underperforming on the park. The manager's not coming out blaming the CEO or anything like that.
It's just an excuse, Derek. It's just an excuse.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Lots of points coming in, as you can imagine. Kev Armstrong, good friend of the show. Morning, Kev. Says subbing Hadji is fine, but maybe put on one of the wingers or attacking mids you had on the bench. Yeah, it was a very bewildering substitution, you've got to say. Mandy Thompson gets in touch. Hey, Derek and Stevie, can my little grandson Lyle Thompson get a wee shout out? He's very poorly and right now down in Great Ormond Street Hospital. As a family, would be forever grateful. Yeah, no problem at all. Hopefully that young Lyle is on the mend soon, Mandy. Sorry to hear that, but yeah. Our best wishes from the Rangers review team to young Lyle. James Miller with the point, Stevie, and to an extent this is the case. It says, Stevie, Derek, what about the players' responsibility? Absolutely. I said yesterday, I think, and I hate it when managers come out and say another manager won't change things, because how do they know? I think this group of players are capable of so much more than what they are producing at this moment in time. I think it's not even a debate for me, Stevie. But I get, you mentioned there that sort of arrogance. I expected Rangers just to turn up on Sunday and win the game. But they should have been able to win the game handsomely as well. But should the players shoulder a lot of the responsibility, just not only on Sunday, but the way things have gone this season?
Look, first of all, I hope the wee man gets a lot better very soon. Yeah. Wee Lyle, and best wishes to Mandy and all the family. I think, especially when it's children, it puts everything in perspective, doesn't it? So, best wishes to Mandy and all the family there. Look, I started this off by saying that the players are getting away scot-free with this because all the anger is on the manager. And I thoroughly believe that. But, Derek, I've sat here for a very long time and said that these players have got issues and stuff like that, and I thoroughly believe they do. I don't think we're a good enough squad. I think there is fruits there. But, you know, what's happened to Hamza and Clement in this last, 10 games? Where's he gone? We've pulled him about position. He looks a bit miffed at things that are going on. Nico Raskin's form has dipped. The back line. There's so many things, Derek. There's just so many issues. When you've got a right winger that plays well, and then you think, can we get a left winger playing well? And it just doesn't work. There's so many holes in this team. It's unbelievable. And, excuse me, they're not set up well enough to get the best out of them. And when we had the best out of them, we had two up front, and we were at least attacking and pressing. And we were getting there because there was numbers, but there's not now. When he doesn't play that system, we look static. Let's be honest. If we're honestly truthful, you go back to that phrase of our game, that should have been one each at halftime, because it was a rerun of what we've seen. And that's what's happening to this team. It's not well set up. It's not well coached. The players look fed up. They don't look like they believe in what they're being asked to do. They don't look like they're excited by the project in front of them, by what's happening in front of them. And I just think it's all wrong. And there's absolutely no way you're telling me that another manager couldn't get the better of them. And he's saying on Sunday another manager wouldn't make any difference to this.
I hate that.
It's a load of nonsense, Derek. It really is a load of nonsense. Well, if it doesn't make any difference and the manager doesn't make any difference,
how do they know?
Why are we paying you 50-odd grand reportedly to sit in that dugout and send them out like that? So again, it's just excuses, and I don't buy it. But my patience is no longer there for Philippe Clement. And what will happen is, Derek, Rangers could go to Tynecastle on Sunday and win 2-0. We could go to St Mirren and beat St Mirren 2-1, etc. See the midweek game against Kilmarnock in Rugby Park, we'll be turgid again, and we'll draw or get beat or drop. This is where this club is under this manager. There's no consistency. A bad result is literally round the corner. A bad performance is literally in front of your face, even when we're winning. It's just done. Everybody's had enough. And there's no patience anymore for what is a man that just consistently comes up with excuses. Not once have I heard him say in a press conference, I don't think I got that right today. Steven Gerrard used to at least sit. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst used to at least sit. Michael Beale, when we had a go at him, at least said, I didn't get these things right. This is not how I want them to play. This is not this. Anytime this guy loses a game or something bad happens, out comes a violin. I don't have a CEO. I don't have a chairman. Things have been put across my desk that should never have. We don't need to go back to this. We don't want this to happen. I've not got a budget, blah, blah, blah. Cut it out. We're not interested. Own your own performance. Sunday, you got it wrong. You got the substitutions miles wrong. You don't know how to change a game. You're hoping that the players do it. And Chris Boyd commented on it and highlighted it. And Boyd's not a fan of him. We all know that. But Boyd's right. The way that he's treated individuals in this squad, Hadji, Nico Raskin, James Tavernier, Cyril Dessers, and regardless of my opinion on him, this is a manager. At one time or another, he tried to get them all out, and now he's relying on them in moments. Even on Sunday with Tom Lawrence trying to fling him on with 2 minutes left and stuff like that. It just screams to me of a guy that's just throwing stuff at the wall and praying that something sticks. And I've just had enough. It's no longer time for me to put up with what I believe is just excuse after excuse. And I just don't see it getting any better.
Yeah.
His position, Derek, but his position is completely untenable. I watched the shows this week and I made that comment which he highlighted. And I just think his position's untenable. And look, that's not me saying he's completely to blame and the board got off with it. And the board don't get off with it. The board's legacy at this moment in time is things like Sunday and accepting second place. We all know that's a different discussion from the one that we're having right now. But on the face of it, Philip Clement isn't coaching them well enough. He's not a good enough manager. Tactics are non-existent for this country. He doesn't set them up well where we can go and breaks teams down and cause issues. We're boring to watch at the best of times. And I look back on it. I've commented to this manager this season 6 times on our performances and our setup. So this isn't Stevie sitting here on the 12th of February saying, after one bad result, I don't want him to be here. I've been on at this for now well into last season because this manager, for me, doesn't have the ability to fix what's right in front of him.
Hard to disagree with any of that. As you can imagine, lots of comments coming in. There's a point here from King Charles Spaniel says, go for Kieran Dowell last night. And Derek with a point says, look at Ben Davis, Dowell now at Birmingham. Dowell is saying he's loving it. That tells about life under Clement. He would say he's loving it at Birmingham, to be fair. But I know that people are saying that they're excelling. Birmingham played Cambridge United to our bottom of League One last night. But they will be promoted back to the Championship at the first time at Askin this season. So I think it's one of those ones. I think they've found their level. Kieran Dowell was never going to work at Rangers. There's the pressure of playing for a club like Rangers as well. Scott Wright as well is coming on and doing reasonably well for Birmingham at this moment in time. Also, Rangers need a calibre of player with the mentality to play for the club. It's no surprise to see these boys heading out the door, Stevie, and doing pretty well. Rabbi Matondo, I know, scored a screamer for where did he join? Hanover, didn't he? On loan for the rest of the season, but doesn't come as any real surprise to me, really. But at that point about players enjoying their football after leaving Rangers, well, I think they would do because they weren't really, they're bit part players, if you like.
I mean, look, let's not start going into revisionism when it starts to go on about the type of players these guys were, with the exception of Scott Wright. Obviously, Scott Wright was world class. But
yeah.
We'll move on from that. Look, on a sensible note, if Kieran Dowell and Ben Davis are so brilliant, then give us $3 million in the summer for both of them, and that's not big money for Birmingham, who are cash rich. So, yeah. It is their level. Cantwell's an interesting one. I've said this before. Todd Cantwell left directly because of Philip Clement.
Yeah.
Because of his push in the cup final and the way that he treated Todd Cantwell. That's my belief on what happened there. I think that Clement's treatment of Cantwell, regardless of what you thought of it, cost the club millions of pounds. That we then had an asset that was rotten. There was absolutely no need. And we said it at the time in Birmingham, Derek, because I was sitting next to you at the time when he came back in. Absolutely no need to do what he done. And it was bizarre. We spoke about it. That isn't, again, us just saying, we both said. And now it ended up costing the club. And I remember sitting going, well, we may as well get rid of him. And that's what we were left with. So there's been, again, so many badly managed situations when it comes to Philip Clement, and it's just one of these ones. I'm going to be careful because it seems like I'm just two-footing him at every opportunity. And I do have a lot of sympathy for him.
Yeah,
I do have a lot of sympathy for him with some things, but my patience is long gone. I'm not prepared to accept things like Sunday and just say it's okay, it's a freak result. It's not a freak result. A freak result is like what happened to Liverpool or what happened to Graham Souness's Rangers team back in the late 80s. Yeah. So this is not a freak result. It's certainly not a freak performance. And that's the biggest thing. This performance under Philippe Clement is only ever 2 or 3 games away. And that's the truth.
Yep, can't disagree with that. Nicky gets in touch. I think I can understand why there's a response to this one. Do you think there's anything in the silence and social media, etc., from the club? I think knowing clubs, anything they put out will be just you'll get those memes, those pictures of Clement's face with that sort of red exit sign over it. So I think they've made I'd imagine an executive decision not to post any content at this moment in time. I don't think it's anything to do with a possible change at the helm at the top. Stevie, would you agree with that?
I mean, I understand why they're not doing it, but I still think it should have been addressed. You either tell us either way.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't just dismiss it, because then it becomes people are just saying, why are you treating us like this?
Yeah.
Why are you not answering us? Why are you not dealing with us, etc.? So no, yes and no. I can see the argument both ways. So
there's no point posting training pictures and all that with guys smiling. I mean,
no, there's not. No, there's absolutely not. And I don't think the players will be smiling. They're not getting a wee trip to London this week, so I should imagine they're in working hard, which they certainly should be. So I want to hear from the chief executive. Never mind going around all the lounges and hospitality and all that. How about you come and address everybody?
You think we will?
Talk to us. I think they should, whether they will or not. And the problem is, Derek, and I said this before as well, and it goes, see, the longer this goes on, the more that they will just be put in the same category as the board and as others that the fans are angry with. And you don't get many chances at Rangers Football Club. Once you make an initial impression and that judgment has been made, it's very difficult to turn it around. So they're just going to be lumped into that situation where we don't trust him. They're puppets of this board. It's all the parts' fault. Get them out as well. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And that, whether you like it or not, is the truth of where we are.
A question I put to Johnny yesterday, Stevie, was if Clement goes, what do Rangers require and profile-wise for a manager? OS19 gets in touch. What kind of manager would Stevie opt for next? For me, a British manager with some top coaches to help him would be a perfect scenario. I think that's exactly what Johnny said yesterday, pretty much. Would you go along with that, Stevie? Who would you like to see come in? The thing is, what I've seen some supporters saying, what's the alternatives? It's not the fans to come up with alternatives. It's the recruitment staff at Rangers, the board to come up with the alternatives. And you would like to think that they have, as I mentioned before, a list of names that could come in and get a tune out of these players.
I mean, I love that. People say to me, Stevie, you go on about it so much. Well, what's your answer? It's not up to me to decide. And how are we going to afford it? Here's the first thing, and I mean this quite sincerely. We have a boardroom of very rich people, very rich men. If they're no longer willing to invest in Rangers Football Club and try and take us forward, and they're happy with status quo where they're no longer putting in and we're going to strip and strip and strip, and that's their scenario behind it, and they're just going to sit tight and they're not going to accept investment or anything else like that, my message to them simply is move aside. If you're just stagnating, doesn't matter who you are, because we have very rich men, John Halstead, etc., is worth billions of pounds. If you're not going to put in money and help in situations like this, then don't be there. And I appreciate all the money they put in. They've just put money in, etc. I get all that. I understand it completely. But if this is just a situation, Derek, where they're not investing and they're not moving us forward at times like this, then my answer to that is it's their responsibility in moments like this to step up. And if they don't, because the fans are still buying merch, they're still putting in season ticket money, the fans are still putting their hands in their pocket. So we're doing what we can. And if they went to the fans and said, we need X amount, the fans would be there to do it as well. So on a situation like this reversed, it's up to them. And that's only my opinion on it. Other people won't feel like that. That's fine. So that's my answer to that. Secondly, what kind of manager would I have? Here's a novel idea. Why don't we put in a temporary manager until the end of the season for a season that's done anyway? Let a coach have it. See how they got on. They're not going to get the job. But during this 3 months until the summer, advertise. Pick out the right man for the job properly over a course of a period of time. Neil's Coppin, unless he's stuck his head in the sand for the last 6 months, should have been anticipating this because it's not a surprise. This isn't like a domestic thing that in the last 2 weeks has fallen apart. We should be well down the road to identifying potential candidates and things. And that's why he's there. That's why we've got a CEO. It's not my responsibility as somebody who talks nonsense on the internet to go and give you an answer to who I would want. Do I want a British manager? I want somebody with an understanding of the British game and what's required. Because I said this before, and it came out all wrong, and I'll try and explain it. Gerrard, Clement, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Beale, they all play the same way. Patient, mid-low block, etc.
Yeah, it's all right for Europe.
I would be tempted to go completely left field and go for somebody that's not suited to Rangers, that doesn't play the way that the squad suits, that wouldn't do anything but would implement his own style, that would attack, that would be aggressive, that would be forward-thinking, and would be resolute in what he's doing. I've got a system, I'm going to attack, but I'm going to bend, and I'm able to change it up, and I'm able to go with 2-3 people up front. I'm able to press. I'm going to try and strangle games because that's what's successful in Scotland. You look at, I remember under Walter, and Walter's 3 years where he won it with a certain style, but I remember Walter over Christmas went attacking. The Marcus Beasley came in the team, Boyd and Miller up front, and we were full on, and we hammered teams round about the time where they were beating Dundee United by 7 and stuff like that, and everybody loved it. And then under McLeish, when he was successful, McLeish used to play 4 up front. We used to have Neil McCann, Lovenkrands, Arvelade, Moles, Ronald de Boer, Kanchelski, all these guys. And we were constant because that's how we played. And every team that's been successful at Rangers that I remember has been a forward-thinking team. Except Walter. Walter was a bit more pragmatic, but he was so well set up, you didn't need to be full on. You know what I mean? And I think we need somebody that's just so intent on strangling games and being all out attacking that'll make it exciting to watch. Because I can't remember the last time I've been excited by a Rangers team. It would probably be Steven Gerrard's Rangers team, Giovanni's run to Europe, but domestically not. So we need somebody that's going to at least get us on the edge of our seats. And yes, listen, Steven Gerrard wasn't perfect, but we could see a progression path. Even in the really dark moments under Gerrard, we could see where we were heading. So that the positions are different. And Gerrard at least always had us up there. Under this manager, we're not going anywhere. And that's the biggest issue I have. And it's going to take a massive sea change to fix that.
Yeah. And you mentioned a caretaker then, Stevie. Does he not deserve Europe for you? Are you sort of sacrificing Europe for the greater good, if you like, to get him out?
Does he deserve Europe? What does he deserve after Sunday, Derek?
Well, there's a comment that came in, I think, at the start of the show, where, I mean, Rangers Europe is different to domestic Rangers, isn't it? So that's the thing. Rangers in Europe, he's hit the bar. I think he's hit what is expected. I think the top 8 place is a really good achievement, given the teams that Rangers had to face.
Unbelievable achievement. Achievement. We've had some really good moments, but we're set up because the horseshoe and that patient style works in Europe. You don't have a press. You don't need to break teams down. You don't need to go. But again,
so do you keep them until the Europa League run ends? That's probably my question.
So my question to you is, are they going to win the Europa League?
Well, very doubtful.
Right. So would you keep them then on the off chance?
Well, there's the financial incentives, isn't there, of getting through rounds. That's the thing.
And who's to say with this squad that somebody else wouldn't be able to take them as well? We didn't keep Paul Le Guen because he had got through in Europe.
Yes, a fair point.
You know, Advocat beat PSG.
Yeah.
And we didn't keep him either.
Yep.
So I don't think, no, not for me. But look, and people will watch it and be well aware, I'm now well over the other side of the mark.
Yeah.
Philippe Clement could win his next 3 games 5-0, and it wouldn't change my position with him because on the 4th, I know what's coming. So I'm done with the status quo. Europe for me is a side issue. I don't want Philippe Clement to be manager of Rangers Football Club anymore. And that's my decision. That's my opinion on it. And I hope to God that we're sitting here in a year's time and saying, wow, that was wrong. I really do. Because all I want at the end of the day is a winning Rangers Football Club. But under this manager and this management team set up and the way that we play in style, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Right, we'll wrap up there. Good show as ever. Big thank you to Stevie for coming on. Very much appreciated. And thank you to you all for tuning in once again. And as it stands, of course, there's nothing from the club. Philippe Clement still Rangers manager. If that is to change, if you hear anything, folks, keep your eyes peeled on all our social media channels and the website as well for all the latest coming out of Rangers, if anything. Of course, Hearts coming up on Sunday. Not that I'm sure that many people are looking forward to that, that's for sure. Right, we'll wrap up there. We'll speak to you later. Enjoy your Wednesday. Bye for now.